I had never played Outer Wilds, but now I have. Welcome back. Outer Wilds is not a game. Well, it is, but just roll with me on this one, okay? I recently watched the credits roll for Outer Wilds. If you followed the journey I took through it, then you'll probably have caught a few glimpses on the effect that place had on me. I originally bought it sometime in 2024, I forget when. A friend of mine, who shows up in the credits of every episode, suggested that I give it a try. It sat in my Steam library for a long time. I knew I wanted to make it a project. I knew I couldn't let my friend down and not play it. And honestly, this is just one of many reasons it took me a while to just sit down and give it my attention. The thing is, I didn't even know if I'd enjoy it. I trusted my friend, but I knew little and less about it beyond that. I decided I'd keep it that way, which, it was hard. I've closed a lot of YouTube videos and ran screaming from many articles and conversations whenever Outer Wilds was as much as mentioned. Outer Wilds is popular, it's loved, but there are plenty of people out there that couldn't get into it or dismissed it for one reason or another. That's completely fine, by the way, you should always do you. So that's another reason it took me so long to sit down and start my journey. I was genuinely worried I wouldn't like it. There's another reason, involving a spiral into depression, that meant I spent a fair amount of 2024 existing and not doing much of anything else. That had a hand in a lot of creative pursuits being put on hold, actually. To the point, I went into Outer Wilds knowing nothing about it, including whether or not I'd enjoy it. I'm grateful that this was the case for a multitude of reasons. Everything in the series that just concluded on my channel is genuine. When I played, I recorded all of it. I made notes, I took my time, and then I wrote over 50,000 words. Finally, I tidied all that up and made it an absolute priority to share it with anyone who cared to watch. Thank you, by the way. The creative process became a challenge intertwined with what I was experiencing during my journey, and I'm proud of the work I did to make it and present it in the way I did. I've never done anything like this before, it was all new to me. Another thing I wasn't sure I could even do, let alone enjoy. XCOM 2 and RimWorld were reactive and things I'm intimately familiar with. If you watched those, then you were there with me as events happened, aside from the parts I edited out due to lack of events happening. I know XCOM 2, and I know RimWorld. For Outer Wilds though, after that first session, I knew I'd need a different approach. There were many things that I just wasn't good at during my journey. I never really did quite learn how to land the ship, but at least my piloting got better. Space is not designed for navigation, turns out. There are many places that aren't meant for us actually. Black holes are hungry, anglerfish are hungrier. There was nothing measuring progression for me as I navigated the Outer Wilds. Anything I got better at, anything I began to understand, anything I learned, that was all just innate. It took time. It took frustration. It took being eaten by the aforementioned hungry things. It took thinking I understood something or had found a direction, only for it to be a dead end. In most games, these things happen. Maybe not the black hole or the anglerfish situation, true. But as you navigate a game and your understanding of its rules and systems grow, you naturally get better at it and understand it more. You don't speed run through Celeste without losing a single life by filling up an XP bar until you can do so. You don't get past Margit until you get good. You can only level up so much in a JRPG before skill and understanding has to take the wheel. I guess. I think Outer Wilds presents all of this in a far more abstract, more real way. We all have an incredible capacity to learn, but we learn by doing, by investigating, by being curious. In most games, a quest log, a progression bar, or a level marks these sorts of things. It's why progression systems in games are typically considered as a vital part of their infrastructure and what makes them games at all. Outer Wilds doesn't have any of those things though. You have to make the conscious decision to go out there and explore. Making sense of the information in front of you is left up to you and your own imagination, including the limits of that imagination. You don't increase your stats to get better at flying and landing the ship, you just get better at it by doing it. Except landing. That particular art form shall never truly be understood. And that's fine. I don't know what moment it was that I decided that I was on an investigation during my time in Outer Wilds. What started as excitement to be exploring an interesting and diverse solar system at some point became solving a mystery. But the game didn't place that on me. I arrived at that destination on my own. Sure, it's been designed so you find things that lead you to other things, but none of that works without it touching upon your curiosity. Outer Wilds isn't going to tell you to go and find out what happened to Dark Bramble. You have to look at Dark Bramble and decide that you want to find out for yourself. Another thing I don't know is when I stopped seeing it as a game I was playing. At the beginning, I was quick to identify that I was in a tutorial. A wonderfully hidden tutorial, it has to be said. No prompts interrupted what I was just naturally doing anyway. There were no flashing question mark icons to click on, no chip given to me by a friend, or a dream sequence that allowed me to learn the fundamentals of combat. Just Hearthians, objects, and signposts. All existing in a world in a natural state that I was able to interact with. Eventually though, I did stop seeing it as a game. It was an exploration. Exploration became an investigation. Investigation became questioning my own perception of the universe and our place in it. Yeah, that's pretty good for a game. One of the biggest hurdles I had during my journey was grappling with my own thoughts, perceptions, and internal philosophies as I explored and learned more. The Nomai started as an interesting subject that I wanted to learn more about. As I travelled and the strands of information began to weave their web though, I came to feel as though I knew them. I didn't just want to know what happened to them, I needed to know. All of their discoveries and their culture, their desire to find the eye of the universe and how far they would go to achieve that goal drove me forward and deeper into the pool. The truth of it is, by the end, I was mourning them. The universe we live in is a dark and scary place. There are monsters out there, and we're alone, insignificant. We are to the universe as atoms are to us. For all of the struggles, chaos, politics, fighting, love, care, living that we do here on Earth, at any moment, if the universe decides that our time is up, then our time is up. It's just nature taking its course. You can't change the flow of time, every loop needs to be broken. You can't change what happens to a star at the end of its lifespan, whether it goes out in a blaze of glory or silently into that good night. We, as all things, are born, we live, and then we die. What matters is what we do with that small fraction of space and time that we, as individuals, are gifted. This is something that I've been comfortable with for a long time. You might disagree with me on any number of levels, call it nihilistic, be unable to marry your own thoughts and beliefs with this way of looking at things, or maybe you just don't like me very much. And that's okay. I would actually really like to hear all of the reasons why. They're important. Except maybe if it's that you just don't like me very much, that's fine. I get it, and it's fine. Outer Wilds made me reconsider all of this. When I learned that the supernova was just a natural end to the star and the solar system around it, I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to change it. Solanum told me that the Eye of the Universe represented extreme changeability, and what drove me to take the actions I took in the end, what drove me to end the time loop and travel out there to the Eye, was the chance for change. Could I use the Eye to change things? Could I, a tiny, small fraction, change nature's course? I had to take the chance. Throughout my journey, I learned about the Nomai, an entire culture of people driven by their curiosity and brilliance. It dawned on me that what I was exploring was their graveyard, and that there might not be any Nomai left out there. They all faded out of existence because of the chance arrival of a comet to the solar system. That's all. It wasn't hubris, it wasn't science going too far. It wasn't even their own quest to cause a supernova and now wanted to stop from happening. It was just nature. A comet arrived, then the Nomai died. The universe and time carried on. the Harthians developed consciousness. Then they developed space travel. Then my journey began. Just turns out that my journey began at the very end. Everyone, I think, at some point in their life, wants to be the hero. We've told stories and myths of heroic figures for about as long as we as a species have had enough of a developed brain to do so. We'll continue to do so for a long time, I expect. So many stories involve one person, one action, making the difference. Not even stories either. Our living, breathing history has examples of this too. I wanted to be the hero in these moments, to save a dying star and the solar system that called that star home. Of course, in the end, when all of the possibilities collapsed and nature proceeded exactly as it was meant to, when all the stars faded and all that was left was nothing at all, something new came from it. Things end, things begin again. From what once was comes what will be. Our burden and our privilege is to experience those things in the brief moment of time that we're here, to know that all of it, including ourselves, matters. All of this is why I don't feel that Outer Wilds is a game. It's an experience, one I'm grateful to have had. Whether you've taken the journey on your own, experienced my journey with me, or have done both, I'm thankful that you are able to do so. It's like I said at the end of my own journey, more than anything else, it stays with you. So, now that I've gotten all of that out of my system, I think it's time for something a little different. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Please let me know what you think, because, as I said before, I'd love to hear it. As for what's next, I'll be taking a short break before the next series starts up. An actual short break this time, not 7 months. In the meantime, you can find me on Twitch. There's a link to that in the description if you're interested. Until then, though, it's been Outer Wilds.